Hi everyone, welcome back to the Raspberry Sweet Studio. I've gotten a lot of requests lately from a lot of you asking for some sort of tutorial video on how to stamp your own background patterns using those long skinny background building stamps. So I put together a little video with some tips, just things that I do when I'm stamping my own patterns to get those stamps lined up nice and straight. So hopefully you'll find it helpful, and thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Okay, so when stamping background patterns, there are a couple of things that will help make your life a little easier if you have trouble getting your images lined up. The first is one of these grid line blocks. Can you see the grid lines that are built into the block itself? You can get these at papertreyink.com, and I highly recommend this. This is the only thing I use now when I stamp those long background patterns that Papertrey is kind of becoming quite known for. They've got all these great long acrylic stamps. They've got all the background basics stamp sets, background basics diamonds and hearts and various stamps like that. There are lots of sets with various images that also include one of these long background stamps. And then there's, of course, my all-time favorite, most loved Polka Dot Basics 2. I use this all the time. I know you guys probably are sick of me using it, but I can't stop. I love it. Another thing that's helpful is if you've got some sort of work surface to stamp on that has a grid line on it of some sort. You can buy fancy grid line paper that's, you know, an actual grid all over. Or I just use these big desk calendars from, this one's from Office Max, but usually when they you know, when January, February rolls around and calendars are out, I go stock up on these and just keep them in the closet. You can stamp on it, and when you get it dirty, you just tear off a sheet and move on to the next one, and so you've constantly got a clean workspace to work with. But the lines on here are what's helpful when you're stamping these patterns, because you can line the lines with your block up with the lines on the calendar to make sure that you're stamping a straight line. And as long as your paper is lined up straight, which you can put it right up against the edge of one of those lines so you know your paper's straight, then you lay your stamp on the table, line one of these lines. I use this bottom line up with the bottom edge of the stamp, and you just push it down, and that picks up the stamp. So now I know that my stamp is on the block straight. My paper, if it's lined up here with a line, and then I line the lines up on the sides here with the lines on the calendar, then you can be sure when you set that down that you're going to have a straight image. So to start out with, let's use some Raspberry Fizz ink. Oh, love this color. It's so pretty. This is from Papertrey Ink also. I'm going to scooch it down so that a little bit of the dots run off the bottom edge of the cardstock. I do find on these long skinny stamps it's easier to ink it this way than to try and ink like that. So I lay it down, give it a few taps, and get it nice and inky. Now I'm going to tuck these dots sort of like you're laying bricks. You're going to tuck them right into the spaces on the first dots that we've already stamped. You just want to make sure that you're keeping the same distance between these dots as what you're doing between the dots that you just stamped. So there you see we'll do one more with the polka dots. Same thing. Tuck it right down inside so that these circles are fitting right in between the grooves here on these circles. Okay. Another thing I like to do is cut my 8.5 by 11 cardstock in half lengthwise so that it's 4 1/4 across. And then if you're feeling like you're just not feeling very crafty one day, you can go ahead and just stamp some background patterns like this. Most of these stamps are designed to hang off the edge of the cardstock. So you can just do a whole row of, or a whole sheet of whatever pattern, or multiple. You could do another pattern here and another pattern here. And then when you are feeling crafty, you've got these pattern papers ready to go, and you can just punch a cute little heart out of that or whatever, and it's ready to go on your project. So I'm going to take a wet wipe, wipe this off, get one more. That one was already kind of icky. Then there's a lot of wet wipe residue on there, so you can get a towel or something and blot that dry, or you can just tap it on your work surface and get all that wet wipe residue off. Okay, so the other stamp I'm going to show you today is from Background Basics Diamonds. And this stamp I'm going to show you because it's got a different pattern. Well, you'll see it when we get it inky. It's different on this end than it is on this end. So you might think it a little tricky to get it lined up. So I'm going to line up that line with the bottom edge of my block. I'm going to ink it up. You can tell when this is Papertrey's new hybrid ink. You can tell when that stamp is not inked up enough. You'll see little white spots if it's not filled in. Okay, so I'm going to start by stamping the same way I did the first polka dots. I want my bottom edge to run off the edge of the cardstock a little bit. And now I'm going to ink it up again, and this time, see these dots here? There's no dots on this end, so we're going to tuck those dots up into the spaces on this stamp on the bottom edge here, and we want to see the circles all connect, they all touch. So you want this row of circles touching this row of circles in order for this pattern to be completed. So it looks like you're stamping it like almost on top of what you've already got, but when you do that, see, you get your circles so they're touching, and that makes it complete the pattern just like you want. Really, you're going to have to practice. I mean, a lot of these stamps you kind of have to try it and see exactly. Like this one, you know, you have to play around a little bit and make sure that you figure out exactly how the images are supposed to go together. But once you figure out for each stamp, you get to where you can do it over and over without any trouble. So there you have it. Background stamping. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.